So today is about business-to-business sales and marketing. How many of you are already working or have started a company within B2B? Okay. How many of you are working in B2C, business to consumer? Okay. So today will be, of course, it's also relevant for other than B2B, but the focus is on B2B. So I would do this very fast, 10-15 minutes, a brief intro to both PreSeed Academy, today's topic, but also business-to-business sales and marketing and why that is important. After that, much more interesting, we have Dennis from Forecast, I will point here, coming, and we have Mikkel from Omnio, who will share their experiences from two very different B2B companies. And much more important, beer and beer, right? So if I should talk about what we're trying to establish in a startup, you could find an analogy of a car. You want to have this beautiful, fast car, and of course you'd be a very nice place, maybe with some palms, and you're driving it, and hopefully have no debt in it, right? That's basically what we are trying to do. We're trying to build that. And you can say what we're trying to do with PreSeed Academy is to getting from where you're today to where this car actually not only runs fast, not break down, and you don't have any debt, right? And that's basically the journey of a startup. But that's not where we start, right? So you can say, what are the elements? Or if you should use an analogy, you can say the engine of getting that started. I'm a simple guy, and I see four main things. It's something about the product you should build. You know, what is it actually that we're going to build to our customers? Is it this or is it that? And typically, as you all know, those of you who have been here before with the lean startup, we're talking about the minimal viable product, you know, to get started. But of course, that product can be sold to many different customer groups. Actually, you could say, in many cases, you can choose between you're going for the B2B or the B2C market. Is the specific segment we're going after? That's part two. Part three is, you could say, how do we reach those customers? Are we selling directly to them? If so, is it online or offline? Are we selling through a partner? Which kind of partner are we using? And finally, how do we drive demand with sales and marketing, which is basically the main topic today. So when we designed PreSeed Academy, we basically thought, hey, we want to go through these elements to make sure that, you know, we pass on the different parts of the knowledge we have. I think when we started, and those of you who were in the first 1 or 2 or 3 lectures, we focused a lot about how to get started. You know, how to get something running. And when you start, you're not having a fast supercar, you're having something like that, right? Something with a lot of duct tape, and you try to have a smart moped motor on something, and hopefully it goes. That's basically what we talk about in Lean Startup. We had with the product market fit, and we had the third one on the KPIs and metrics, how to measure progress. And then last time it was about the people and teams, because ask any investor, including PreSeed Ventures, including me, what are we really looking for? Are we really looking for the perfect business plan or whatever? No, we're looking for people that can drive this small car and hopefully make it into a supercar, right? And to do a very, very quick wrap-up of what we talked about last time, it was really, you know, how do you attract these people? So how many of you are software developers? Okay, I'll have to talk to all of you after, right? So an experienced software developer in a big corporate in Denmark can earn a lot of money. 60, 70, 80,000 kroner. What are we paying software developers in most startups? Not that much, right? And of course, we try to incentivize people with warrant schemes, with having whatever, but honestly, from a pure financial point of view, it doesn't make sense for many people to work in a startup, including myself, right? So one of the big parts is really how to attract people. And I think some of the most successful startups I see, you know, really what they have going for them is the ability to attract cool people without paying 80, 90,000. Because honestly, you don't even want those people because they're driven by something else. Last time, we also discussed about the different phases of a startup, how you actually attract them. So when I have some of my friends who say, oh, maybe we should join a startup, I say, hey, let's go back 1 second. A startup is many different things. Are we talking about 3 persons in a basement? Or are we talking about joining Trustpilot, something like that in Denmark, right? And your incentives are clearly very different, because the 3 persons in the basement most likely don't have a salary. So your main financial incentive is you get a lot of ownership. If some of you are trying to join a big startup, including the one from Crystal Slides, you're most likely offered 0.whatever%. But on the other hand, you have more safety and you have a close to market-based salary. So different phases, different incentives for employees. We also had Mads, where is he hiding now? There, from PreSeed, talking about what they're looking for and also how they try to help startups. I stole one of his slides, and basically what they're looking for is, of course, some kind of product that fits into a real big market, and the bubble of the team is just much bigger, right? Again, we are all looking for a team. So advice for any of you that are going to do a startup is, before you talk to investors, whatever, find that team. And another slide I stole from Mads were that, a bit more specific. What are they looking for? Something that has this vision and knowledge about this problem. Someone that can build it and someone that can sell it, right? And honestly, that's what we're all looking for. Someone who knows the problem well enough, someone that can build it and sell it. So I also teach at CBS, and they are often meet really, really cool persons that have this fantastic idea. And I look at them and they are 2 commercial persons, and I said, so you're building a software company? Great. Who of you can code? None. It's really hard, right? And I actually experienced the same here at DTU. Fantastic technical people. And then I asked them, okay, you're in B2B, so who of you are going to call 500 companies next year? And they're starting there and sweating, right? We need both. Then we have Mikkel here from Good Monday, who told about how they recruited, basically what they look for. And it was so obvious that his recruiting criteria were so different than a big corporate, because it was more about personality and fit in. And he also told stories about, they hired for one junior position, but quickly went up the ranks and had a lot of responsibility. And that's also a good advice for any of you if you want to join a startup. It's really about meeting the startup and selling yourself to them, because these jobs are not advertised, because we're waiting for the right person to show up. And when the right person shows up, we create a job. Okay? That was a very, very quick wrap-up of last session. So today, we're talking about business to business. So we focus a lot about the sales and marketing, maybe a little bit about distribution, but mainly about sales and marketing, and purely on business to business perspective. And you could actually argue, why is that needed? If I should take one product, we could call it software or hardware device or whatever. Or I want to sell this device to someone. There's really, really big difference between selling to a corporate and selling to a consumer, right? In many ways, both where they're going to buy it, how much they're going to pay, what their main incentives is, all these are different. And I meet again and again, especially younger founders who lack that expertise, especially if you haven't worked in a large company. How many of you have worked in a company with plus, let's say, 500 people? Oh my God, are you all corporates? Yeah. Because then you know, right? Then you know that these decision processes are just so different. And that is extremely important, because that has a huge, huge impact on the, you can say, the sales and marketing strategy. because in 99% of cases you're doing something that is at least some, a little different from what you do in a consumer setting. So how are they different? I think they're different first of all in the processes. If you're a professor at CBS, you'll talk about buying centers. If you basically just want straight talk, we talk about we have a lot of people with interest, right? So you're selling something to that company, and you have both a purchasing department, you have a tech department, you have a CFO, you have an HR department, you have a lot of stakeholders, right? And these processes, who are really the decision maker here, is just so hard. You think for a long time it's actually that department, but then at some point in time, another department comes in, right? So when we talk about selling B2B, I'll come with a disclaimer later, but in most cases, it's not one decision maker. Maybe if you want to sell one of this, but if you want to sell 1,000 of this to DTU, right? Imagine, simple question, and I have no idea who's it. Imagine you want to sell a flat screen to DTU. Who is the real decision maker? Is it someone at Skylab? I doubt that. I'm guessing they have some kind of facility department that might together with the finance department. I'm just guessing. It's not really, really easy always to find out. But also because, what are the reasons for buying? So, if I should make fun of myself or you, why are we really buying clothes? Is it to keep ourselves from not freezing? Honestly, could you get your watch cheaper? Do you really need a new pair of jeans? No. Most of us in the Western world, we are basically up here. The majority of the reason for that, when we're buying water, when we're buying a new car, are we really buying a car from A to B? No. We're buying a car to send some signals, whatever. Yes, of course, we also want to get transported from A to B. But next time you see a Lamborghini in the center of Copenhagen, someone who takes that car from north of Copenhagen to his office in center of Copenhagen, that's because you're up here, right? And I'm not saying that B2B is completely logical, but I'm saying a big part of business to business is to improve the outcome of that business, right? So you're going to buy a robot for that assembly line because you think it's better for your company. And that normally is you can reduce your cost, you can get a higher price, or you can sell more. And ideally, all three of that, right? Of course, sometimes you can also sell something because the manager is then more happy. But again, a big part of that is it has to fit in here. There's some objectives of the company. That's one. So it's much more complex and there are a lot of people. The good thing is the average order size is much higher, and so is the lifetime value. So I think the simplest example I could find was basically catering, right? How many of you have ordered from Nemlig.com or a similar one? Right? So getting one of you as customers might have, I'm guessing, a lifetime value of a few thousand kroner. Because you might buy for 300 kroner, there might be margin for 100. You might, on average, buy 30 times. That's 3,000 kroner. Can you imagine becoming the preferred supplier for the canteen of DTU? Right? If you're a catering company. How much food is DTU buying each day? A lot. And that has a huge impact on the sales and marketing strategy because you can afford to spend a lot of time and money on getting DTU as customer. You can't afford spending so much money on getting you as customer of Nemlig because lifetime value is lower. And finally, it often involves integration or collaboration because since a company is buying that product to fit in, you have to fit in the system. So if you want to sell that screen most likely had to fit in with some other stuff here, right? And if you want to sell some even more complex in an assembly line or a manufacturing line, it has to fit in with thousands of different parts. All that being said, the different stakeholders, the complexity, the reasons for buying, all that means that selling something in a B2B environment, it's much, much different. And that often leads to that, for those of you who work with consumer marketing, what do we all want? Automation, right? No hands, a customer that sees an ad, go to the funnel, becomes a paying customer, use the credit card, and we never hear from that customer again, right? That's really what we want. And if the customer sends us an email, we have a chatbot to do that automatically, right? Fantastic customers, we sit there getting drunk in red wine, and it's all the customers are coming, and the only thing we should care about is customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. When we're talking about B2B, it's really, really hard to do it. It's really, really hard to get DTU as your catering customer, because no one at DTU is sitting and saying canteen vendor, and then they go into the web page and they put on the credit card to buy for 2 million kroner a year. They're not going to do it, right? And when someone has to be fitted in, they want to talk to a real person that can find out where this audio equipment can work with that. They might need surveys, they might need installation, whatever. So sales and marketing often involves some kind of human element here. And what I often see, the classic thing is we can automate a lot of lead generation coming to us, qualifying the lead, whatever. But to close the deal, most often involves a human being, either in person, on the phone, on Skype. But again, maybe B2B is too big a definition, because B2B is your 10-person company. That is Microsoft in 79. We have Bill Gates there. And it's Microsoft in 2018 with, I don't know, I'm saying 100,000 employees. I have no clue, right? So when we talk about sales and marketing strategies in B2B, we also talk a lot about what are you selling to? Are you selling to a really, really small company with 2 persons? Maybe the process is almost as in a consumer. But selling to a big monster like that, it's very, very different. Okay? And that actually leads us to what we're going to discuss today, is that we have Dennis from Forecast talking about their software, which I can say, seen from my perspective, is more in the mid-market. Dennis will come in with much more detail. And we have Mikkel from Omnio, which is selling an IoT software, which is some of the biggest beast of them all, right? So we have the mid-market, and we have the big enterprise sales. So I had to do the wrap-up without actually have heard their presentation. So I guessed based upon the slides what was really cool. Let's see if it works out. So what I took from Dennis was really this about how to treat different segments in B2B, very, very different. How it's very different serving a small business from a whale, and that you really have to be good at something, and that means that you're not good at serving the others. I think that's extremely important for us, and I know how hard it is for my own business when a company that is not really the fit wants to buy from you. It's really, really hard to say no. But you also know that if up here, maybe it's end up in over customization, or maybe it's end up actually customers not being happy. Yes, you can sign them, but will they recommend you? Will you get a good name out of that? I think that's extremely important from Dennis' slide. Also about this persona thing, where within that different company, you have all these stakeholders, and these have different objectives. I think that's extremely important, because unless you sell something extremely simple, you will have more. I think this was the main stakeholders from Omnio, procurement, strategy department, product management, innovation, all these. These have different objectives. Understanding them, and I think as both, especially Mikkel focused on, what drives those? What makes them happy? What makes them promoted? An extremely valid point for Mikkel was also this about that his background in corporate actually helped him a lot. The last one from Dennis was the sales funnel. I think I listened to a lot of startups and know a lot. I think the strategy and the way to look at sales and marketing from Dennis and forecast, I think that's been the most structures I ever seen. I'm not saying you should all repeat exactly that, but I'm saying this thing about what can we automate, because the problem is often that you come into a startup and suddenly you got traction and oh my God, it's way too busy. So even after 2 years, you're still doing the same manual process. But I think this focus that Forecast and Dennis had on actually optimizing those and testing all the time with data is extremely important. From Omnio, I think this is extremely true, that we should not fool ourselves that being a corporate is very different. I never worked in really large companies, but I worked in, let's say, organizations with 2,000 employees, and it's so different. The people are there for another reason. Sometimes when I make fun of them, I say people are there to be able to go home and play badminton with their kids at 3:30, right? That's the main goal for some. There are, of course, some of the corporates who actually are there because they want to change something. But there are so many different people there. And all the structures in a corporate makes focus on basically minimize risk, focus operations, and there's a famous quote saying large organizations are not built for innovation, they are built for efficiency. And that's what they are. So believe that they would take a risk, as Mikkel said, and buy from you is really something that they have. No, because why should that CTO take a risk with you? That person doesn't really care about your product. I've done this failure myself, believing in free pilots. I know it's really, really hard, but I'm involved in a few companies now, and they are seeing the exact same. If they charge for their pilots, they're more successful. And as Mikkel also said, pilots and that revenue is the strongest proof you have of traction. So if you end up actually having to raise money, there's a big difference between having 5 unpaid pilots or having 5 pilots that each generated $20,000. It's huge difference. It's really, the second of those, I will just say, oh my God, you have traction. The free pilots, yeah, how much are you using them or whatever? Yeah, avoid this. And finally, where Mikkel wrapped it up, it's all about networks. I actually sat with one of my portfolio companies. Right now we're sitting approximately once a week and open LinkedIn. And then Christian said, Nicolaj, who do you know in company X? I don't really know. Oh my God, that person I worked with 10 years ago is now working in that department. Okay, let's email that person. It makes a huge difference. So grow your network by all means, by contacting people, by asking for help, by joining accelerators, by having mentors, whatever. You need, especially if you want to sell to those beasts, you need introductions. Don't bet on one company. Don't bet on one large company. In one of my companies where we sell to big auditing companies, we're starting talking to them 3 years before they actually buy. What saved the company? That a lot of mid-sized companies are buying in between. Again, classic customization can kill the speed of your organization. But of course, it's not black and white, right? Because it's about that you need to do a little bit to make them happy, especially in the early days where you don't really know, where it's basically, customer development. But the more mature you are, the easier it also is to say no, because you know that 10 other companies have bought this product, so it's good enough for them. So next time, we're focusing on funding. Because, of course, in the ideal world, you don't need funding. The best companies, or some of the best companies in the world, are grown organically. But sometimes, especially if you work with R&D heavy stuff, or with long sales cycles, you need funding to make the car move forward. We actually have a session at Tech Barbecue about that. I'm not sure that it's more. I see that someone did a mistake here. It wasn't me, but someone, right? Okay, it's the 24th. We have an event at the Tech Barbecue. Read more at PreSeed Academy. This is great. And both the 24th and the 25th, we actually have the official Ask a Mechanic. You can come here and ask a mechanic about the fuel and the engine and the gasoline you should use. That basically means the team of PreSeed Ventures. I'm also there, where you can book open door sessions at Tech Barbecue. Not to pitch, but basically ask questions. And that can be any question you have. To apply for that, you go to PreSeed Academy and send an email, and we see if you're one of the lucky ones. That's basically it. And now to the most important thing. Are there more beers? There are more beers. And see you the 24th and the 25th of September. Cool. Thanks.